What's up and good morning. Welcome back to another episode of the Khaya podcast.
Also known as real estate therapy.
There you go. Lisa, today you briefly mentioned you turned 30K into a $3 million portfolio. And so when I met Lisa, I had been with a different firm for several years at the time, and in comes this big personality, bulldog, knows everything about everything. But is it fair to say you were searching a little bit and taking a leap at this new path, right?
Absolutely.
And so I was fortunate enough to spend a ton of time with Lisa. We even took you on your first listing appointment.
You were my first mentor.
And I was fortunate enough to be along for this entire journey. So Lisa, when we met 5 years ago,
you had hair.
I had hair. You were less bossy.
I had debt. No, I was the same. I had a bunch of debt and you had hair. That's pretty much how it goes.
There we go. So talk to me. You had come in, you're taking a new career path. You have drank the Kool-Aid of real estate investing. Talk to us, teach us, how do you turn your bank account of 30K all in, your net worth, to now over $3 million?
Well, it's a good question. And I didn't actually have 30K in the bank, mind you. I owned a home. I owned a little home, happened to be in a really great neighborhood near Wash Park, if you live in Denver. It's important to say that I bought this house in 2014. I had just gotten divorced and I needed a place to live. And I knew paying rent was just wasting money. So I bought a house and everyone said, don't buy, it's the top of the market. And in 2014, they were right. Now, quickly, what happened from 2008 to 2012 is, of course, the crash. So in Denver, real estate market held steady. We didn't crash like the rest of the country. That's important because we're in it again. 2008, 2012, the market held steady. 2012 to 14, it jumped. So yes, in 2014, I was buying at the top of the market. But what happened from 2014 to now? I mean, it literally has doubled in value. So I didn't listen to the naysayers, like similar to what's happening right now. So I bought this little house for my kids. It was not necessarily an investment purchase. I wasn't necessarily thinking the long term. I just needed a home for my children. Now, I was born in a real estate family, so I've known that this is the path to financial freedom my whole life. I just didn't know how to do it by myself.
Let me call time out right there. When you say we've both used the term financial freedom many times, explain briefly what that means.
Well, it means something different to everyone, right? And you and I know this because we used to give these presentations. When you ask a room full of white men in a suit, what is wealth? They raise their hand and inevitably say, $1 million in the bank. And it's like, is that wealth or is that rich? And is $1 million even enough if you say, well, I want to retire, I want to travel? Like, I don't know what enough is, but I know that I was making six figures and I couldn't get ahead. I couldn't pay off my debt, my student loans, and figure out how to save for college.
Sure.
So financial freedom for me was being able to figure out a way to be able to pay for my kids' college. At the time, it was 10 years. So I sat down and I was like, okay, if I buy 10 properties in 10 years and have enough equity that I can pull that out or sell the house, I have choices. So for me, real estate's really about choices. I have all these homes now and I can live in them if I have to. I Airbnb them. And
just going to piggyback there really briefly on what financial freedom means and how I define it. It's very similar to what Lisa says. Financial freedom to me is not driving a Range Rover. It's not having $1 million in the bank.
It's having a great wine cellar.
It's having enough availability that I'm not concerned. I have a roof over my head. I have cash coming in that is not from my job. Right? It's saying
passive income.
It's if shit hits the fan, I have money coming in every month and I have shelter to live in.
In my life, it's not if, it's when shit hits the fan, because it does every few years.
And so that to me is the financial freedom, is saying, look, I know that real estate might not be the absolute most liquid, but it is semi-liquid assets that you can use as shelter that also provide income outside of your day-to-day 9 to 5. That to me is very important, and that's how I define financial freedom.
Mm-hmm. And I think a step further is we work hard for our money, assuming everybody has some kind of a job or multiple jobs. I want my money to work hard for me.
Correct.
And I just don't know the stock market. I don't trust it. I don't know enough about it, and I can't see it and touch it and feel it like I can with real estate. Same with crypto. Everybody got into it, made money, lost money. I don't know. I just buy my real estate, and it's working out pretty well.
So now you bought your real estate. You started with your one house in Quarry Merrill. How did you get into number 2, 3, 4, 5?
Well, that's a great question. I bought this house, which seemed to be at the top of the market, but guess what real estate does? It continues to appreciate. So I did what's called the HELOC, a home equity line of credit, and I pulled out 30 grand. That was it. And at the time, the interest rates were a little lower, so that payment was only about $50 a month. So for $50 extra a month out of my monthly budget, I have $30,000 that is now my down payment on my next primary. This is what we've been talking about, house hacking versus investment. It's a common misconception that you need 20% down to buy a house.
Yes.
That's not true. You need 20% down to buy an investment single family house, 25 for a multi. Now, a primary, meaning a house I'm going to live in, is as little as 0 down, truthfully. 3.5 for FHA, 5% conventional. So that 30 grand that I pulled out was enough to cover my down payment of 5%, closing costs, and enough to buy some new furniture because,
you got to have something to sleep on.
I mean, that's what we're doing. So I took a 30K and I bought my second house, a little single family home that happened to have a walkout basement so that I could turn that into what's called a mother-in-law suite. You hear the term ADU a lot. That means accessory dwelling unit. That is something that is detached from your home. Think about like an apartment over a garage. A mother-in-law suite is something that's in your house. So I rented the basement sort of apartment to my house to cover the payment. And I moved my boys. And you know what? Yes, moving sucks. But you know what sucks more? Working till you're dead. So I moved. I've moved actually 4 times in the last 5 years to get to 5 properties. And I love it because that's all the money I have. And it's worth noting that I only pull out as much money as my rent will cover.
And that's something I want to touch on that you said. You said moving sucks. I'm going to take that a little different way. And making money and investing, period, and getting ahead in life, no matter what, it takes sacrifice. So while you say moving sucks, I call it sacrifice. You're never going to get where you want to be 25 years from now without sacrificing something, right? And
moving with 2 little kids sucked.
And moving...
But I would do it 10 times over.
There's no way around it. Everybody knows moving is horrible. It is absolutely... There's so much pain that comes.
Ask your wife.
And if you move in the winter, it's even worse. And oh my gosh. However, you did this sacrifice and you've done it 4 or 5 times now?
Yeah, so I got addicted. The first time it was like, oh, this works. And mind you, I didn't have 2 dimes to rub together. So I want to preface that, like the what ifs, right? I love this quote. Fear says what if, faith says even if. So what if I buy this house and something breaks right away, which is a real question. And for example, if a water heater goes out, it's like, what is it now? $1,500? Let's call it $2,000, right?
Yeah.
All in. So I didn't have that. So what I did was we closed on the 4th of a month. So your first payment isn't due till 2 months later. What that means is I had already rented my previous house. So I had a month of rent from this house and no payment. So that $3,000 in the bank went into
a reserve fund. Yeah.
So that gave me enough confidence to then move forward. And I will tell you, I've had that first home for 4 years and nothing has gone wrong until this year. And I know that's a whole nother Oprah, but like now, yes, I'm doing some what's called capital improvement. But now I have 20, 30,000 in that account that's just been sitting there that I can now use to make improvements on the property, which by the way is a write-off, which we can do a whole nother Oprah on about how to use the tax implications.
Let's stay on. So that's house 2. Now, how long did you live there with the boys before you went in and bought property 3?
I lived there for about a year.
Okay.
Ish. And property 3 was actually my first investment property.
Here we go.
So I now had to
spend. So now you have.
I'd saved the 20%
now you've
down.
Saved.
Yep.
And that 30K original HELOC from home 1 has now bought you home 2 and given you enough.
Yes. I saved half of it and I pulled
access
half
to
of it.
enough capital to go put 20% down.
25 because I actually bought a duplex. But I found a new market. I actually bought in Greeley, which is about an hour north of Denver, northeast-ish.
And why on earth did you buy in Greeley?
Cash flow.
Cash flow.
Cash flow. Nothing in Denver cash flowed for the amount that I had. And again, my goal is a property every year. I'm not waiting. I'm not waiting for the right time. I'm not waiting till I have enough money. I'm not waiting for the rates to drop. I don't have time. My kids are going to college or prison, but they're going somewhere in 5 years. I mean, you've met them, you know. But I'm going somewhere in 5 years and I have to come up with something, either college tuition or legal fees, okay? So I have to make moves fast. And I like Greeley. I like the path of development. I like what's happening up there. I did a lot of research. I like that people are getting pushed and priced out of Boulder and Fort Collins and moving. I like following the red states, not political, it doesn't matter how you vote. The red places tend to not have rent control. They favor landlord laws. These are all the things that we know inside and out to find the best deals. Okay. So saved money, bought my first official investment property there, and now have had 3 properties, and all of those are building equity. And I have a lot of equity. I just met with my financial planner yesterday, and I have enough equity now because 1 turns into 2, 2 turns into 4, and 4 turns into 12. That's how this game works.
And that's what I love is, you know, we talk often, you know, Lisa, and I've pitched this to every walk of life and had this conversation is, one, you know, you talked about your financial advisor. We're not financial advisors, but what I like to think of us as is kind of therapists, one. But 2, financial advisors through real estate, wealth advisors through real estate. What I love that you did is you took that sacrifice and you knew your why of what you want to do, whether that's your kids going to prison or to college. You have taken the necessary steps that should they choose college, which we all hope they do, that you have now, as you said, you have so much equity in these homes. They won't have student loans. They both will have assets titled to them in the future. This is a big deal. They are now set up for success when they grow up, when they finish college. If they decide to do whatever they do, again, I go back to they still have shelter over the head, should they just decide to move in. And I love that. And so you get to this point now that you've got all these homes. We sit here today and film.
Well, we didn't talk about the lake house.
And that's where I'm at. We're sitting here filming at Lisa's beautiful lake house. And it's, you know, personally couldn't be more proud of Lisa being along on this journey. But it's just really cool to see, and proven that you do not. The biggest misconception of real estate investing is that you need all of this money to get in the game. It's not hard to get started. It's not hard to get into the game. It does take sacrifice. It does suck moving. However, there are so many avenues and so many options that we can take anybody and get them to achieve their goals. You being my favorite case study of all time. And that's I appreciate you sharing that story, because when you came and we started working together, it wasn't easy for you. And I got to personally see that struggle, but the tenacity to get there. And that's what is so cool for me. And I appreciate you sharing your story.
Love you, man.
That was a good one. That was a good podcast.
The more we drink, the better we get.